In this lesson, we'll be looking at factorization of quadratic expression in the form x squared plus or minus bx plus or minus c. Now, before we start factorizing, we need to know what are quadratic expressions. So quadratic expressions are the ones which are expressed in the form that I just said. And in a quadratic expression, the highest power of x is 2, which we can see here. So that is the highest degree of 2. This is how we recognize that it's a quadratic expression. Now, before we start factorizing, let's just review what we know about expanding. So if you remember, in the last few lessons, we did expanding single brackets, then we did expanding double brackets, and we remember that when we expand double brackets, we get expression something like this. When I expand x plus 5 bracket x plus 1, I get the answer as x squared plus 6x plus 5. So this tells us that if we expand double brackets, we get a quadratic expression. So which means in this case we are given a quadratic expression and we have to go backwards. That means we have to put them in brackets. So this tells us that we are going to get double brackets in this case. And there is another thing that we can clearly see here, that if we times 5 and 1, which are the factors here, 5 and 1, it gives us 5, and if I add them, it gives me the middle term. So that's the strategy that we are going to use in this lesson. There are 4 possible cases, and we'll explore each one of them one after the other. And there is another case that is a difference of squares, but we'll do it in our next lesson. Let's look at the first example. So the strategy that we are going to use here is called the product and sum strategy. So we are going to look at the last number, and we are going to find two factors of 15 or multiples of 15 that will times to 15. In this case, I can take 15 and 1. Then my other multiples can be 3 and 5. And then we are going to check what happens if we add them. So 15 plus 1 is 16, but that is not equal to my middle number. Whereas if I do 3 plus 5, it gives me my middle number. So which tells us our factors are 3 and 5. So we'll put our double brackets here. So our factors are plus 3 and plus 5. And you can write them in any order. So you can write x plus 5 first as well. It will not change your answer. So these are our factors of the expression x squared plus 8x plus 15. So it has been factorized now. Let's look at the second one now. So we'll follow the same strategy. So look for two numbers that times to 9. So multiples of 9, 3 and 3. And clearly I can see they add to 6. And I can also take 9 and 1 and they add to 10. So this will not work. So that means we are not going to take this one, and we'll take the factors at 3 and 3. Put the double brackets and put your factors inside. So plus 3 and plus 3. Now this can also be simplified as x plus 3 whole squared. Now the next example that we have is x squared plus 12x plus 32. So the two multiples can be 8 and 4. Then 32 and 1. Then it can be 16 and 2. And let's just add them. So if I add them, I can clearly see the first one works, so I'm not going to check the others. So our factors are 8 and 4. So your answer will be x plus 8 and x plus 4. Now if you're not sure whether your factors are working or not, so you can always expand them and check whether you get the same expression back. So it is a good idea to always, if you have time in the exam, you can just expand them and check whether your factors are making sense or not. The last one. So the more you practice these questions, the quickly the factors will start coming to your mind, and you can start doing them in your head. So look for numbers of multiples of 5, which can be 5 and 1, and they add to 6. So our factors are x plus 5 and x plus 1. Again, they can be written in any order. So you can write x plus 1 first as well. So this was our first case. What happens? Here we noticed that B was positive and C was positive. So that was our first case that we just looked at. And we did not have to worry about any signs. What happens if B and C both are negative? So let's look at one example and let's see what happens to our factors or our multiples. Now we have to look for two numbers that needs to give us 24. So it can be 6 and 4. Then it can be 12 and 2. Then it can be 8 and 3 and 24 and 1 as well. So in this case, since I have a negative here, so that it tells me that one of them needs to be negative. And since whenever we add or subtract a number, to get a negative answer, we have the bigger factor or the bigger number needs to be negative. So this means our bigger number in this case will be negative. So this is something that we have to remember. So if I go 6, so let's do negative 6 plus 4, it gives me negative 2. So the first one does not work. Let's do the second one. 12, negative 12 plus 2 will give me negative 10. Do not work. So this does not work. This does not work. Let's look at 8 and 3. So 8 and 3 is negative 8 and positive 3 will give me negative 5, and that's what I want. So my factors will be x, take away 8 or x minus 8, and x plus 3. Now you can write x plus 3 at the front like this. So you can change their places. It will not change, but you cannot change the sign. So the sign needs to be with 8. So whenever you have these, when you have negative p and negative c, out of the two factors, the bigger one will be negative. All right, let's look at the second one here. So the multiples can be in this case 11 and 2 and 22 and 1. So again, the bigger number will be negative. So negative 2 and negative 11 and positive 2 will give me negative 9. So I'm not even trying to do this one. So these are my factors, negative 11 and positive 2. So your answer will be x, take away 11, and x plus 2. Let's look at our next example here, 44. So your multiples can be 11 and 4 and 22 and 2. And by the look of it, my first one works. So I'm not going to go and find other factors. So negative 7, which means my factors are x minus 11 and x plus 4. The last example in this case, 56. So the factors can be 7 and 8. So answer will be negative 1. I'm not exploring other factors because I got my answer in the first go. So your answer will be, or your factors will be in this case, x plus 7 and x minus 8. So just remember, when B and C both are negative, just make sure your bigger number is negative. Now let's look at the third case scenario. In this case, your C is positive and your B is negative. So what it tells us, that both of the factors are negative. That is why when you times two negative numbers, it gives you positive, which means both factors are going to be negative. So both the numbers are going to be negative. And once you understand this, you will never make mistake. So let's look at the multiples of 36, which is 9 and 4, and I'm going to stop if it gives me the answer. So negative 9 and negative 4 gives me negative 13. So I'll just take my factors as x minus 9 and x minus 4. Now if you times them, negative 9 times negative 4, we can check here, it gives us positive 36, and if I add them, it gives me negative 13. So it works. All right, moving on to the next one. So the numbers can be 6 and 7, and both of them will be negative. Then only I will get negative 13. So my factors are negative 6 and negative 7. So it will be x minus 6 and x minus 7. Next one, 36. So 9 and 4, 12 and 3, then and I have made a mistake in writing the question, so it should be 13 here. So let me change that before I move on. So let's add our numbers. So negative 9 and negative 4 gives you negative 13. Negative 12 and negative 3 gives us negative 15. So definitely we don't need this part here. So our factors are negative 9 and negative 4. So let's put them in brackets. So it is x minus 9 and x minus 4. Let's look at the last example, which is negative 4, negative 3. And I did it because we already looked at the examples above. Both are negatives. Both the factors are negative. So it gives us x minus 4 and x minus 3. So these are your factors. They times to 12 and adds to negative 7. Let's look at the last case scenario in this case. And there is another one that I said that we'll be doing in next lesson. But for this lesson, this is the last one. What happens if b is positive but c is negative? So this tells us that the smaller number, so if out of the two factors, the smaller number will be negative. So that's something that we have to keep in our mind here. So let's look at the factors of 18. So 6 and 3. In this case, the smaller number here is out of the two is 3. So 6 take away 3 is 3. So our factors will be x plus 6 and x minus 3. Next one, 24. So it can be 6 and 4. Then 12 and 2. So 6 take away 4 gives us 2, which does not work. Whereas 12 take away 2 will give us 10. So it works. So our factors are x plus 12 and x minus 2. Second last problem, 27. So you can take the factors as 9 and 3. It definitely works. So it gives us 6. So your factors are x plus 9 and x minus 3. See, I'm not exploring all the factors if I get my answer in the first go. So 7 times 3, it works. So your factors are x plus 7 and x minus 3. In the next lesson, we'll be looking at difference of squares. And if you need some questions like this, let me know so that I can put it on our OneNote.